What do you know about renewable energy? How important is solar, wind, and hydroelectric power to the future of our planet? Learn some new vocabulary as we go green today on
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hello and welcome. My name's Craig.
And my name's Reza.
And with nearly 50 years of teaching English between us, Reza and I are going to help you grow your grammar, vocalize your vocabulary, and perfect your pronunciation, taking all aspects of your English up to the next level. How are you, Reza?
I'm feeling very well despite a little bit of hay fever. Listeners who've been listening for a long time might remember that I often get hay fever. It sounds like I've got a cold, resfriado, but I haven't. It's the pollen. So if I sound a bit nasal like this, like everything's coming out my nose, it's because of the hay fever. Apologies.
Isn't that usually in the spring when the flowers are blooming and growing?
It's worse in the spring, but I also get it in the autumn. Yeah. But basically all year I can get it.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. We're speaking about renewable energy this week, and we have an email from Junior Garcia Galvez from Cuba. Reza, would you like to read it?
Yeah. Here's his email to me. Hello, Reza. My name is Junior Garcia. I am a mechanical engineer, and I'm from Cuba. Ah, very nice place, Cuba. I think we've both been there, haven't we?
We have.
Yeah, you've been there as well.
Beautiful place.
Beautiful country. I'm writing to you because I've decided to learn English, and this is a good way to enhance my grammar.
That's a nice expression, to enhance your grammar or enhance your vocabulary, to improve it, to make it better.
He continues, in the past, I looked for several ways to increase and improve my vocabulary, grammar, and speaking skills. So, I found lots of documents, internet pages, and podcasts that aims toward my objective. Podcast that aims. That doesn't sound right, does it, Craig?
Also, can you aim toward an objective? I think it might be better to say achieve my objective or reach my objective or reach my aim and achieve my aim.
Yeah, and because podcasts is plural, so podcasts aim or reach an objective, not aims. We don't put the S because that's third person singular. So podcasts that reach my objective, let's say. I have to say, both of you, Rez and Craig, are wonderful English teachers.
Thank you very much.
I hear you every day. I wouldn't say hear there. I listen to you because hearing something is maybe by chance. Listen to is intentionally. So I listen to you every day in the morning when I go to my job. Nowadays, I'm studying for my master degree. It's actually a master's degree. Very common mistake. Apostrophe S. My master's degree. Degree in Desarrollo Energético Sostenible.
What's that in English?
I guess that means
the development of sustainable energy?
Sustainable or maybe renewable. Both, they're similar, aren't they? Sustainable or renewable. Well, actually, no, they're not exactly the same, are they? We'll talk about that in a minute. Sustainable energy. And I would like that in your podcast, you develop, better to say talk about, the topic. Renewable energy. If you like, of course.
Yes, we like.
We'd love to, Junior. We'd love to. We like it and we're going to because it's a very good idea.
It is. And we have spoken about a similar topic back in episode 96. We spoke about nature and the environment. So if that's helpful for you, Junior, or anybody listening, go to inglespodcast.com/96. Remember that this topic of the environment is very, very popular as a writing topic or a speaking topic in many English exams. So it's a good idea to revise this vocabulary and practice this topic of the environment and renewable energy. So what is renewable energy, Reza, or clean energy?
Well, that's it. Yeah, clean energy. If it's renewable, it's energy that is collected from renewable resources. Resources is where you get something, which are naturally replenished. That means you use them, but automatically the supply is
Put back
again. It's replenished within a human's life, such as sunlight. The sun's always going to be there. Well, actually, that's not true, is it? But
let's hope it's going to be there.
Well, no. Think about it. The sun isn't always going to be there. It is until we die, but it will eventually burn out. It's actually a fallacy that the sun will be there forever. It won't.
Yeah.
It's a star, and they will eventually burn out. But Junior and everybody, I wouldn't worry about it. I think we're talking about millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of years.
Hopefully,
but eventually it will disappear. Actually, yeah. So, in practical terms, let's say it'll always be there. So, sunlight, wind, el viento, rain, tides. That's the movement of the sea towards the coast and away. La marea.
La marea, yeah.
Waves, olas. Not hola, ¿qué tal? But the sea going up and down.
Hola.
Waves on the sea, or it could be waves on a lake as well. And geothermal heat. That's using the heat of inside the earth to generate power. So all of those are renewable. Think of the word new. They're that always means again. Renewable. They can be new again and again and again. For example, the sun. At night, you go to bed, seems to have disappeared. I say seems to. I know it hasn't
It's still there.
But it seems to have disappeared because you're now on the other side. So the sun is shining somewhere else. But you get up in the morning and hey, like magic, it's there again. So it's like new every day. It's renewable. That's in contrast to non-renewable sources such as fossil fuels. What do we mean by fossil fuels, Craig?
They would be fuels like oil, for example, or gas, or coal, carbon. So fuels that are obtained from the ground or from the earth. So let's look at some vocabulary connected to the topic of renewable energy. We can talk about the source of energy. Source, S-O-U-R-C-E, la fuente. So, for example, the sun is a source of energy for plants. Plants need sunlight to grow, so the sun is a source of energy.
Energy supply. Supply. Everybody knows economics. Business is about supply and demand. People demand energy, so there needs to be an energy supply. There are companies, or maybe the government, generating energy. They're using power plants. Now, I'm not talking about a plant like a cactus or a rose. I'm talking about a factory.
Power to the plants, man.
Yeah, hippie power.
Hippie
Flower power. No, we're not talking about that. A plant can also be like a factory where energy is produced. So a power plant is where they will create the energy supply, which eventually, probably in the form of electricity, will get to your house if you're lucky.
So you could have a nuclear power plant which creates nuclear energy, for example. There's also power created by the sun, which is solar energy. And you can collect power from the sun. You can collect solar energy in solar panels. For example, on the roof of your house. You must have seen the glass-covered panels on some houses, and they create energy for hot water and electricity inside the house. Solar panels.
Another way of using this energy is with a wind turbine. A turbine is basically something which turns round and round and round. So as the wind blows, whoosh, it makes the turbine turn around, and that can create energy which can be converted into electricity, for example.
I saw a lot of wind turbines recently when I travelled to Andalusia 3-4 weeks ago. On the way down from sort of Alicante down to the south of Spain to Andalusia, there were lots of wind farms. A wind farm is an area usually in open countryside, where you can see lots of wind turbines standing and turning in the wind. They are huge. They're really, really high. We drove quite close to them, and they were very impressive.
Yeah, I find it kind of strange in a nice way, ironic to see wind turbines in the middle of Spain, in the Spanish plains, La Meseta, particularly in La Mancha, because it makes me think of old Don Quixote.
With the windmill.
And the windmills, yeah, exactly. They're like the modern version of windmills.
Yeah.
Windmill is molino. So, as you know, Don Quixote, he traveled through La Mancha, and apparently there were lots of windmills in those days to create energy. They were using the flow of water.
Also a turbine, because it turned the wheel at the bottom.
Exactly. So, in fact, that technology has come back into fashion. But rather than using wind and water, it's purely wind, because a windmill sometimes was connected up to water, sometimes connected up to wind, and it was made of wood. Well, now we got the modern versions, but they're still there in La Mancha. It's kind of nice how they haven't disappeared.
And they're quite controversial. I've heard that some people object to wind turbines because they say it ruins the countryside, it ruins the view that people have of the countryside. So not everybody is in favour of this aspect of clean energy.
Another type of energy which is considered fairly clean is HEP, or hydroelectric power, HEP. You'll need a dam. Oh, sorry, I didn't say a bad word there.
Damn you.
Damn you.
Damn you, Reza.
Maldita sea.
Damn you and your dirty mouth.
Oh, no. I mean a DAM dam, not a DAMN, which is the bad word. So a hydroelectric dam is basically a big wall built to control the flow of water. So they build a dam so that the water doesn't move. It's collected until humans want it to flow one way or another. So it's kind of interfering a little bit with nature, but controlling the flow of water so that whenever you release the water, it will turn around turbines which can produce electricity.
Isn't dam presa in Spanish?
Presa, that's
Presa,
right.
yeah. Something I have not seen, another kind of renewable energy, is a tidal barrage. That's TIDAL, from the word tide, marea, and barrage, BARRAGE. A tidal barrage is a device that blocks a flow of water when the tide is retreating or going back, and then it releases it in a very controlled way to generate electricity. So it's basically electricity that is created from the tide of water. I've never seen one. Have you?
I haven't. No, I've heard of it, and I'm guessing the way it works is that it's somehow raised and lowered. So I imagine it's lowered so that when the incoming tide, so when the water's getting closer to the land all the time, when the tide's incoming, it can easily pass over the barrier. And then I imagine when the water has crossed over the barrier, then they raise it and then it can't get back.
Yep.
I imagine that's how it works. So it's kind of like a dam, only a dam, a temporary dam in the sea, whereas normally dams are for lakes and rivers. Imagine that's what it is.
Biofuels, BIOFUELS, biofuels are fuels like alcohol, ethers, and other chemicals made from raw biological material, such as herbaceous and woody plants that have a lot of wood, or very green plants. Usually they're left over plants from agricultural and forestry residues. Residue is waste. For example, if you drink a cup of coffee or a cup of tea and you look inside your teapot or your coffee cup, you see the residue of the drink, so what's left over. So when you clear a field in agriculture, or maybe you cut down trees in a forest, you have this residue, this woody plant-like stuff that's left over, and then that is what is used for biofuels.
Craig, you mentioned alcohol as one of the biofuels. So every time I have a 10-year-old malt whiskey, is that a source of renewable energy for me?
Absolutely. You should save your urine, take it to the urine renewable factory or plant, and they might give you a couple of euros for it. So you didn't realize your 10-year-old urine whiskey is valuable.
And it certainly does give me energy when I have a whiskey or two. Temporarily, it doesn't last very long.
But not 3 or 4. That's the opposite.
No, the other one then takes it away. It's a curious type of biofuel, is 10-year-old whiskey.
What's geothermal energy, Reza?
So geothermal, let's break it up. Thermal is going to be to do with heat, isn't it? A thermometer, thermostat, heat. And geo means the earth. So geothermal, it's when you obtain energy from the heat near the Earth's core. So the Earth's core is very hot. Apparently, I think it's even hotter than the sun. Incredible, but true. So underneath our feet there, way deep down, it's very, very hot. So if you can somehow get down, drill down there, you can get an extremely powerful source of energy, geothermal energy.
And you mentioned the word core, C-O-R-E. The center of something is the core. If you eat an apple, the center of the apple that you usually throw away is the apple core. So the core of the earth, the center of the earth where it's really, really hot.
When you throw your apple away, that could be considered waste. W-A-S-T-E, waste. Another form of renewable energy is using municipal solid waste, or even industrial waste. So all those apples and other things you throw away in your rubbish can all be collected and brought to a plant where they can be burned to produce energy. Not only household waste, but also industrial waste. In other words, the byproducts, the things which are as a result of what's being made, not the main object, but the extra bits that the company doesn't want, they can be collected and then burned to produce energy. That would be industrial waste energy production.
So here's the thing, Reza. Here's the $10,000 question. Here's the question. Can clean energy replace fossil fuels? Can things like solar power, solar energy, wind turbines and hydroelectric power, can they one day replace fossil fuels like oil, gas and coal?
Ooh, who knows? Who knows the answer to that question? I can only give you my own personal opinion. I think, yes, they can, but it's going to take a while. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be quick. I mean, for example, wind and solar energy are only about 5 to 6% of the world's sources for electricity. Mm-hmm. So it's not very much at the minute, but hey, 5 or 6%, it's something. So we have to keep going in that direction. And I think it will be possible because it has to happen, because fossil fuels will disappear if we keep burning them. There won't be any left. It's as simple as that, because they are not renewable. They don't come back. When you burn oil, it's gone. It's not going to come back tomorrow to fill the space where you got it from. So we have to.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you've said. And also because it's becoming cheaper. Renewable energy is becoming cheaper every year, and the cost has always been a factor. Now, there are some world leaders and politicians, and I won't mention any names, who are against renewable energy and in favor of investing more money in traditional fossil fuels. However, a lot of the businesses and the taxpayers are against this because the prediction is in the future it will be better for everybody and cheaper to use renewable energy. So, as you said, it's a matter of time. In fact, when I was doing a little research for this podcast in Germany, for example, they want to run on 80% renewable energy by 2050. Now, the phrasal verb to run on is funcionar, to be able to live, to be able to exist and use, to run on 80% of renewable energy by 2050. That does not mean in the year 2050. The preposition by means in that year or before. So that's a long time in the future. However, the prediction is, yes, it's going to happen.
Yeah. And let's now make that distinction very clear between renewable and sustainable energy supply. Renewable, we've explained, it automatically becomes new. It replaces itself. Sustainable obviously includes renewable, but sustainable energy supply could be burning some fossil fuel, but in a sustainable way, in a way that can be managed. So nuclear energy, even, as well as fossil fuels, could be considered sustainable if you use them very wisely, in a controlled way.
What does wisely mean?
Wisely means de una manera sabio. Wise is sabio. In a very careful way, not wasting them, just only using what you have to use, thinking about future generations, because maybe some energy or some industry is better when it's produced with fossil fuels. It could be. For example, recently we've been talking about truckers. They run on petrol or gas, as they say in America. For the moment, that's the best way that trucks run. So yeah, let's keep the trucks running on petrol, gas for the minute, but let's investigate, let's research into ways of making it better. But I'm not saying, hey, let's stop all truck drivers or car drivers driving for now, but let's limit our use of those fossil fuels to what we really need. Let's not burn them for things we don't really need. Mm-hmm. That could also be considered sustainable energy use.
So on a more personal level, Reza, how do you save the amount of energy you use every day? Or how can people listening save energy they use?
Well, pretty obvious things to me, but apparently some people I know don't do the same. They've been in my house and they've been surprised. At night, I turn off my Wi-Fi, disconnect it. Don't need it on. I'm not going to use Wi-Fi in the middle of the night. I take my plug out. I take the plug out. I don't even keep it like just on there and standby. I unplug it. I unplug my TV. You might think, but you got it off. Well, no. If your TV's on, you know that tiny little red light of standby? It doesn't light up free, you know. Mm-hmm. It needs electricity to run. Unplug it. Take it out.
Well, I must admit, I admire you because I do not do that. I do leave my Wi-Fi and even sometimes my computer on. I know, I shouldn't, but I do. But I do save energy by turning lights off when I'm not in the room. So immediately when I leave the room, I'll turn off the light. And we also have an electricity system in our house that is cheaper when you use it at night. So any washing... we have a washing machine and a small dishwasher. So we use those appliances after 11 o'clock at night and before 11 a.m. the following morning. If we use the electricity during those times, it's cheaper and it saves energy too.
This year, for the first time in my life, I now have a dishwasher.
Congratulations.
I never had one before, but I'm determined only to use it when it's full. I won't put it on when it's half full.
What about if there's 1 teaspoon to fill it up? If it's like missing 1 teaspoon or 1 table, would you?
Okay, for 1 teaspoon, I'd probably turn it on. But you know, if it's kind of half empty or even 2/3 full, I'd rather wait until it's completely full. 1 teaspoon. Okay, maybe, but you know what I mean. I don't want to put it on unnecessarily because dishwashers use a lot of electricity, actually, and water, quite a lot. So things like that I do as well.
You could shower with a friend.
I occasionally do, actually. I do.
I hope it's a good friend.
A very good friend.
Save water. Shower with a friend. I don't have an electric car or a hybrid car. The hybrid cars are cars that run on, there's that phrasal verb, to run on again, to run on petrol or gas in American English and electricity at the same time. So it's a similar word in Spanish, hybrid, a hybrid car. So my car is petrol. So maybe in the future when I change cars, I'll look at the possibility of having an electric car.
I wonder, have hybrid lorries been invented yet? Do you know if they have?
I'm not sure. I know that lorries tend to run on diesel because it's cheaper than petrol.
Yeah.
So diesel, gas oil is cheaper.
Tony, or any trucker out there, could you let us know, have they invented a hybrid truck yet? We don't know. We'd be interested to know about that.
Or an electric rig. Are there any rigs running on? You'd need very big batteries. You'd probably need the battery the size of the trailer just to get the lorry moving.
Probably not practical. It may be hybrid, but purely electric would be difficult, wouldn't it? Yeah.
You've recently done up your flat and you've recently bought some new appliances. Did you buy any energy efficient appliances for your flat?
All of them. I went out of my way to make sure that everything was A+.
What does it mean to go out of your way?
To go out of your way. Another phrasal verb like run on. To go out of your way means to make a special effort. So I went out of my way to make sure that all the appliances, the machines I use in my house, my appliances are very energy efficient, at least A+ or A++. Not only because it's good for the environment, but because I want to save money.
Yeah.
In the long run, they will save me money because of a more efficient use of electricity. So yeah, I did. These days, it's quite easy to find very efficient appliances at a reasonable price, thankfully.
Yeah, that's true. Now, some people think that energy supplies should all be nationalized, that the state should own the gas company, the electric company. What do you think? Do you think that's a viable plan? Do you think that's a logical idea?
I do like the idea, I must say, because take the United Kingdom as an example. Most people would agree that the price of electricity has gone up a lot since it's been privatized in the UK. So it was privatized in the 1980s.
Yeah, with Thatcher.
Yeah. Before that, it did seem to be much cheaper. And now it seems more expensive per unit or per kilowatt that you use. Okay, we might not be talking a heck of a lot of money, but I don't see why the price couldn't have remained a little bit lower, stayed under state control, because I don't like the idea of people suffering because they can't afford electricity. I kind of feel it's the state's responsibility to supply electricity as fairly as possible. So I understand in some countries they don't have a good electricity supply, like a place you were in recently, Ethiopia. You're only going to get a few hours a day, but that's everybody. So at least it's fair. I don't like the idea of some people not having heating in a cold country because they can't afford it. So they could easily get it. It could easily arrive at their house. But I don't like the idea that they can't pay for it. It seems very, very harsh, very hard to me.
I agree with you in theory, but I don't think that's very practical. I think that was maybe true 10 or 15 years ago and before that. But I think more recently, because of the way changing administrations and changing governments put different priorities and emphasis on power, I don't think it's practical. And I think the idea of energy getting to everybody in an affordable way and prices being reasonable would come from private competition. If there is more than one gas company, more than one electricity company, as we've seen with more than one cable company or phone company that are private, that in theory economically would bring down the price.
Yes, I see your theory, and more competition generally does tend to put the price down. Generally. Although I think the government still has to control the price. I'm going to ask you two questions. And before I give you the answer to the second one, you're going to have guessed it because of the way I ask you. Check it out, everybody, on internet. First question. Where do you think average salaries are higher? Sweden or Spain?
Average salary, Sweden.
Yeah, you don't have to think much about that, do you? We all know that.
They also pay more tax.
They pay more tax, yeah. But even, let's see, net income after tax. It's Sweden, isn't it? Yeah. Net income, even after paying tax.
Yes, because the cost of living is higher.
Okay.
Is that true?
It is, yeah. Cost of living is higher. Now, forget about for a second, but then immediately after, remember salaries. In absolute terms, that means forgetting about cost of living, salaries, forget about that. In absolute terms, who pays more per kilowatt of energy? A Spanish person or a Swedish person? A Swede or Spaniard?
I would say a Spaniard.
Correct. Does that seem fair?
No, it doesn't.
Private suppliers. In Spain, we pay more per kilowatt. Forget about how much you earn. Don't think about that. We pay more than a person in Stockholm.
And how many suppliers of electricity are there in Spain?
Several. 4 or 5. There are 2 or 3 big ones and a couple of other ones, 4 or 5. I don't know how many there are in Sweden, but I know that we pay more than in Sweden or in Germany or in the UK. In Spain, you pay more per kilowatt. Forget about any other variables. Per unit of electricity, it's more expensive in Spain than in Sweden.
Well, that's very interesting. I did not know that. And I would suggest a possible solution is that the government, instead of supplying the energy, needs to regulate the charge of private companies to prevent monopolies, to prevent them agreeing on a higher price together. So the government needs to step in, and there needs to be a public governing body that's independent that controls the price of it. But that's not the same as the state owning the production and supply of it.
Yeah. I have a feeling in Sweden that there are private suppliers. It's not state supplied, but that it's heavily regulated.
Exactly. And that's my point.
Yeah. So maybe you think the solution is that it shouldn't be state owned, but very highly regulated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that sounds like a good compromise, yeah.
Do you think it's possible, Reza, to get our future energy from a source that we don't yet know of?
For sure. And we should be spending lots of money and research to find that. I'm sure there are many sources we haven't discovered yet.
Can you think of any?
Well, if I could, I'd be a very rich man. if I knew an exact answer, I'd be making a lot of money right now. I would be having chats with Elon Musk face to face. So I don't know personally, but I'm sure there are certain gases and things that we haven't quite fully researched how to get the most out of them. I'm sure there's got to be other types of gases that could be exploited.
It's funny, not funny, ha ha ha, but funny, strange or peculiar. It's interesting. It's funny that you mentioned Elon Musk because he is involved in a project with the sun that involves not only capturing solar energy from down here on Earth, but sending satellites closer to the sun where the energy is stronger, capturing the energy from there and sending that energy down to Earth, which I think is very interesting because, as he says, the sun is there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Why not use as much as we can of that energy because it's free and because it's renewable? It doesn't wear out, in theory.
That brings me to a kind of obsession of mine. I'm a huge supporter of solar energy, and maybe I'm a cynic. A cynic is a person who's very suspicious. I'm a cynic. I think there should be a lot more solar energy in use today. And my feeling is that it hasn't been fully exploited because it's free. Mm-hmm. That is my feeling. All you need is a solar panel, point it at the sun. Hopefully it's not too cloudy and you've got energy. Very, very, very hard for a company to stop you doing that, or the government. You got your own solar powers and you know basic electricity. People have done it. People who have never worked for a company, an electricity company, they've done it. It's not that hard. Big companies wouldn't like the sound of that.
Yeah.
They don't like the sound of that. They do like the sound of having to have extremely expensive and huge drilling equipment to be able to get oil or gas or coal out of the earth. You and I can't do that, or not in a scale that's worthwhile. And we'd have to break our backs to get the minimum amount. We're not going to do that. But solar energy is so easy to obtain. And I cynically believe that there is deliberate underinvestment in solar energy. That is my honest belief.
I agree with that. And so then I think you're saying that in the future, the solution is going to come from private investors and private companies and not from the government.
I hope not, but I fear it's what's going to happen. And
Me too.
They're not going to be quick about investing in solar energy because it's so easy to harness. Harness means get control and use it. It's not difficult. And therefore, you don't need the big company to do it. You don't need the big multinational oil company.
Exactly.
You do to fill your car, to fill your truck. You don't to produce solar energy. We have friends. I'm thinking of Archie and Picassent, for example.
Hi, Archie.
Who have solar panels and are using them right now on their roof. And you don't need a multinational company to do that. That's what the big companies don't like, I think.
I agree with you. That's all we have time for this week. And now it's your turn to practice your English. What do you think? Do you disagree with anything Reza and I have said in this episode? We would love to hear from you. Please get in touch. We do prefer to hear your voice. So please use our SpeakPipe recording service. That's speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast. Send us a message via SpeakPipe. Say where you're from, say hello, and your opinion on this episode.
We'd be particularly pleased to hear from anybody who works for BP, Shell, Exxon. No, seriously, we would. To know your opinion, because I imagine you've got another side of the story. Iberdrola. You've got another side of the story. And you can probably imagine, listeners, that Iberdrola, Repsol, Exxon, BP have not sponsored this episode of the podcast.
Although we are open to suggestions. If you want to contact us by email, my email address is Craig, Craig, @inglespodcast.com. And yours, Reza?
Mine's belfastreza@gmail.com.
We remind you of our website, mansioningles.com. And if you're interested in getting a course, an Audible course to improve your English, go to store.mansioningles.net.
Thanks as ever to all our patrons. They're the people who sponsor us on the Patreon scheme. For as little as $1 a month, you can get instant access to the audio transcriptions of our podcasts. If you're interested, have a look at patreon.com/Ingles podcast.
And we'd like to say welcome to our new Patreon supporters, and thank you very much. The ones who have joined us this month: Julian Gomez, Carlos, Luigi Ranzato, Lydia Alonso, Ricardo Corrales, Oscar, Fabiola Clavero, Esther Martinez, Juanlu Anaya, and Marga Ariza. Thank you very much. What's next week?
Next week's episode is baseball and cricket idioms.
Well, I hope we'll knock that for 6 next week. Thank you for listening this week. Until then, it's goodbye from me.
And bye-bye from me.
The music in this podcast was by Pitts. The track is called See You Later.